Back in November at BTC 13 Power, BTC Fight Promotions launched the $10,000 Bantamweight tournament. The focus of the tournament was to showcase up-and-coming bantamweight prospects in Canada. Nobody in the tournament had more than one win, and the winner of this tournament is going to be the hottest bantamweight prospect in all of Canada. And this is the story of how we got to the BTC $10,000 Bantamweight Tournament Finals.
The tournament, man, it's opportunity for fights. You know, Canada, it's a hard landscape to get guaranteed fights and guaranteed activity. You get these guys in the US, they're getting a freaking like 5-6 fights a year.
There's some good guys in the tournament, which I thought presented some good challenges. It was obviously intriguing, and there's a lot of guys who just went pro but had some hype around them. So it was like a sure way to kind of set yourself at the top of the pack.
The BTC $10,000 Bantamweight tournament started on back in November of 2021 at BTC 13. And obviously BTC picked the 8 of the best bantamweight prospects from around Canada to showcase their skills and really give them a platform. And when you have 8 hungry fighters trying to make their statement and make their mark in the Canadian MMA scene, it just led to excitement. That's exactly what we got back at BTC 13. 4 fights with 4 fantastic finishes that really set the tone of what this tournament is going to be. In the first round matchup for Albaraa Atmeh, he took on Seth Connor, and Seth was a very, well-known fighter in Ontario, had graced the BTC cage beforehand, but came into this fight with a big size advantage, as Seth was normally a natural 145er. And then when Albaraa, he had a lot of hype going into this fight, and honestly, he just lived up to the hype.
As far as competing against Seth, it was great. I got to compete against someone who's legitimate on the ground. He was trying to threat with, that buggy choke and all that type of stuff. Awkward on the feet, lanky, really weird. So it's not like your typical striker necessarily or your typical grappler. So I got to see, it's just a different look.
Again, it was a different fight. The guy shot in on him, I think, and then Barra reversed it, ended up on top.
He hadn't been finished in his pro career, so he was tough, and I got the first round finish, so I was happy with that. And I think that's something I've improved upon since my first pro fight, is my finishing ability.
Albaraa made a statement. We knew he's a great striker, but he's got a good ground game. He can handle himself on the ground. Albaraa moved on in, once again, impressive fashion. Vinny Diaz, his first round opponent was against Alejandro Sosa, and this was a fight I think a lot of people were looking forward to, because we'd heard a lot about Vinny Diaz, that this is a really high-level prospect.
With Sosa, he was pretty good. Like he had some experience fighting in Brazil and had won with his grappling, also lost with his grappling. But I just thought he was an interesting matchup, pretty aggressive fighter, comes out of a good camp. I was never too caught up on who I was facing, but the game plan went pretty much exactly how I planned it. Just kind of get him to the mat, choke him out. So, it went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go. In the first round, I got some good positions early, and he was able to explode out of those positions, and I didn't let it get to my head. I just kept getting back to them, and so he was dealing with my technique with brute strength and athleticism, and as long as I keep using technique, I'm not going to run out.
Credit to Sosa, he survived the first round, but once the fight resumed in the second round, it was Vinny just going in, using that high-level wrestling that he's learned, training at NTT and training with some of the guys from Penn State, south of the border, and took the fight to the ground and showcased his high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu, able to sink in a nasty choke that choked Sosa unconscious.
I never that was the first time I put someone to sleep in a fight. It shows the mechanics are on point, because honestly, I wasn't even really squeezing. I wasn't trying to finish him. I was just trying to use the control I had to further my position. He went out because I did everything right, not because I really tried to put him out.
I could tell with Vinny and Albaraa being on opposite sides of the brackets that already they were going to be on a collision course. We didn't know how we'd end up getting there, but that's where we're slowly but surely getting towards. Moving on to the semifinals and what was going to be a very exciting matchup that had a lot of people in the Canadian MMA scene excited. It was going to be Albaraa Atmeh taking on Ariel Zuniga. Ariel Zuniga advanced to the semifinals with a crazy come-from-behind victory over Harley King back at BTC 13. But unfortunately, 2 days before BTC 14 in March of 2022, Ariel had a medical issue that prevented him from competing.
I was excited. I really, especially because everything kind of surrounding that matchup, all the talk about Ariel was, okay, he's tough, he's durable, he has good cardio. So I wanted to go in there and finish him and prove that, that's not necessarily, as big a factor as people are making it up to be, and that skill is the number one priority to be showcased in MMA. Weight cut was going good. I took my first bath. I was wrapped up in the towels, and then I got a call from my coach, and I thought he was just checking up. I was like, "Yo, what's up, bro?" And then he's like, I could tell something was wrong as soon as I asked him, how are you? He's like, "Oh, not really good. Your fight fell through." So yeah, I was heartbroken, bro. Especially during the weight cut and whatever. Like, it sucks, man. Literally, like, just under maybe 48 hours before you're competing, you find out you're not.
He didn't want to have to make the finals this way through a bye, but these things end up happening in tournaments, especially in MMA. I know he's one fight less, but he's lived up to the hype in his one performance here in the tournament. And people who think that, Albaraa Atmeh is undeserving of being in the finals of this tournament. Albaraa, he's a well-proven fighter in the BTC Fight promotions with 2 fantastic performances.
Against, remind me of, against the guy with the mullet. Tough guy. No, Barra did really well. He came out and he showed what he's about. Pretty much outclassed the guy on the feet.
Bro, I landed some shots on him in that fight and didn't get rocked. You got dropped once. That's about it. The body work, I thought I could have finished him to the body. Same thing. Very gritty guy, very tough. Good, very well-rounded MMA game. I don't think he's necessarily a specialist, but I think he's pretty good everywhere. Pretty good striking, pretty good wrestling, pretty good on the ground. And I think he just came up with a win, actually. People can say whatever they want, man. Everyone starting out their MMA careers, let's not lie to ourselves. A lot of guys look to cherry pick their first 5-6 fights, so they got to get that 5-6-0. Devin was 4-0 as an amateur, collegiate wrestler. He wasn't a slouch, and I knew that going into that fight. People want to say I don't deserve it or whatever. Honestly, I can care less.
I thought it was a good matchup as well. I thought he presented a good challenge, long, lanky striker. It got me excited, to be completely honest. I'm always looking for people that are going to challenge me, and he seemed like he would be a worthy challenger. And I'm a martial artist, I want somebody on my level to challenge me. A lot of people want to go in and just look good. I want someone to challenge me.
It was Vinny just putting the pressure on, being relentless, and, of not letting Izzu use some of the skills that we'd seen from him previously. The tournament fight he had with another highly touted bantamweight prospect in Nate Small, and as well what we saw from Izzuddin Atmeh against Isaiah Metatuk back at BTC 11, where he had an insane high-level knockout with a head kick. So
yeah, I mean, it just shows he's ever evolving. His stand-up in his last fight, he was in there with a really high-level striker, and he was landing his own shots. I think his confidence grew a lot from that fight. Obviously, in those fights, he shows that his grappling is just on a different level.
Credit to Vinny Diaz. In these tournaments, you got to fight your style. Know what you know. Don't try to change anything if it's not broken. And that's exactly what Vinny Diaz does. This is a guy that we knew coming into the tournament would be a high-level jiu-jitsu fighter, and that's exactly what he is. He is a problem for you on the ground because he's going to come in, close the distance on you, and get you to the ground. He's going to find a way there. He's got great jiu-jitsu, but the wrestling as well is also on par with his Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he just makes life miserable for people. And Izzuddin Atmeh found out that way. He kind of broke Izzu's will a little bit towards the end of that third round, and Vinny's just a problem. Vinny took no damage really in this fight as well, so expect to see the best Vinny Diaz here in the Bantamweight tournament final.
He was not an easy fight. He was definitely very durable. Felt like he was kind of strong. He had no quit in him. Fought a good fight. And I also felt like it was a good one for me. Like I hadn't got to do that much striking in some of my other fights, and I got to kind of stand on the feet a little bit with somebody who's really good at that. So it was definitely it was a good experience overall. I think he was probably surprised. Like a lot of people like to say that I'm just a grappler, but like I've been striking just as long as I've been grappling. I just have an obvious advantage over my opponents in grappling because I've been fighting strikers.
You know, he kind of tries to set the tone and catch the opponents off guard, where you looked at the tape of what Vinny Diaz does, and you know the fight's going to go to the ground, but he likes to try to maybe get you off guard by coming forward and throwing some strikes early. And Izzy, who is just known for being another high-level bantamweight prospect in all of Canada, he didn't get any offense going. He was completely shut out, and that's a credit to the skill and the will from Vinny Diaz. Vinny's lives up to the hype of being this dominant grappler that has just been a nightmare for both his opponents in the tournament. If Albaraa is able to, showcase some skill on the ground, get out of positions, then it's going to be an interesting fight, because then Vinny's going to be forced to have to use his striking. But I'm expecting this to be a really high-level fight. It's the best versus the best, and that's what you want in a finals of a tournament. You rarely get them in, Super Bowls or Stanley Cups or NBA finals, and we're getting it here in the finals of this BTC $10,000 bantamweight tournament.
He's been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. Like, once you've been around a while, you don't let your emotions get the better of you. Like, this is business. This is martial arts. Like, I'm going in there to do high-level martial arts. Like, the outside factors don't really concern me.
Face off against him. Honestly, I don't overthink the face off. Some people do. If I see something, I see something. If I don't, I don't. I try to show no emotion. I try to show that I'm about it, and I'm excited for this one, man.
During the face-off with Vinny and Albaraa, you could tell there was a little bit of tension. A brother seeing his brother get beaten up by one guy, and he's across from you. And now it's like Albaraa's got to honor the family name. And for Vinny, I mean, when we talked to him about the Izzy fight, like, yeah, he's, looked good on the ground and looked great on the striking, but he's never fought a fighter like me. And I feel like that same mentality is going to be for Vinny Diaz now going into this fight, where, yeah, Albaara's looked great his 2 times with us at BTC, but he's never fought someone like me with my level of jiu-jitsu and wrestling pedigree. So
fights Vinny 10 times. I think Izzy wins 7 of those times. I don't think Izzy showed up that night, but we have taken major takeaways from it. And if we didn't, we'd be idiots not to, right?
So I'm with Jake 100% with that. If you watched Izzy in sparring, if you watched him in the back warming up, like, just wasn't, I don't know, maybe it wasn't switched on. Maybe, like, you never know what's going on in a fighter's head at the end of the day, right? Like, yeah, man, I think if an Atmeh's on, if an Atmeh's doing what he needs to do, like this fight, I think the big theme this camp was discipline. I have to fight discipline because there's such a specific threat. And it's not like, oh, he has a very broad spectrum of skill. It's not like if I stuff the takedowns, he's going to try to strike with me. No, he's just going to be really persistent on trying to take me down.
I won't go into details of what we've all been doing, but let's just keep it. Like, everyone knows, like, all Vinny can do is run at you with a couple haymakers and try and grab you. And then he's a brown belt of jiu-jitsu. I didn't really see too much of that in the fight with Izzy. Like his ground game specifically. I mean, he held his back for 15 minutes. We know what to expect. I think it's a very predictable fight. And hey, if he wants to throw a curveball in there and try and stay on the feet, that's okay too. So whatever, this is MMA.
We're going to go into it and we're going to be prepared for someone who's amazing everywhere and someone who's world class, and that's what we're preparing for. So it doesn't change anything. The only thing that changes is, we are fighting his brother, so he probably is gonna probably have had some similar training, but the adjustments I think we're gonna be able to make on the ground to get that submission this time.
I'm not too concerned with them being brothers. Like, it's just 2 matchups. That's how I see it. I don't know if this is true, but I've been told that his brother is better than he is. And that makes me excited because, again, like, I want somebody who's good to share the cage with. So if he presents a similar game plan, just a little more refined, it's a good opportunity and a good challenge for me to test myself against.
I think the adjustments that Vinny will be making is going to just be too much for this guy. Like, his brother was able to defend off the choke, but we got a lot of great information from that fight, and I think he's going to be able to get it done this time. But regardless, I know this guy's going to be tough. He comes from a good camp, and he's a great kid, and he comes from great coaches and all that. So expect a good fight.
If I do what needs to be done, if I do stick to, a disciplined style of fighting, doing what I need to do, doing what I've done in training, what we're working on, yeah, man, I think it is an easier fight than people look at it to be. But again, not underestimating any opponents. I'm going in there, I'm thinking he's Khabib as a wrestler, and he's Israel Adesanya on the feet, and he's freaking Tony Ferguson on the ground, That's how we approach it.
His striking's improved a lot. His grappling's improved a lot. His physicality, strength, and speed has all improved. He doesn't get tired. His fitness is there. I'm excited for that. I think he's the better martial artist. So, and with all due respect to Vinny's a tough guy, and look what he did to Izzy, right? Vinny's a solid guy. Be a solid fight. It can go any way, but I think Barra will be well prepared.
Stay sharp on the feet, stingy with my defense, get in clean on my takedowns, and then dominate on the floor.
For Vinny, who knows? If he takes the shot and gets Barra down, he could potentially hold him down the whole round, right? Barra stuffs it, maybe the confidence goes up for Barra, and Vinny's confidence goes down.
I think he's very emotional, to be honest with you. I think once I do stuff a couple takedowns, land a couple harsh, clean shots, I feel like he's gonna shoot panicky takedowns, and that's ultimately when I plan on taking advantage of him. That when he's starting to shoot sloppy takedowns, he's tired, he's this, he's that. That being said, his wrestling is legit. He has good chain wrestling, and I'd be lying to say if him on the ground isn't a threat. It is a threat at the end of the day. But I think it is something to be said that he literally had Izzy's back for 15 minutes and he couldn't finish him.
Be an interesting, first minute in that cage as they're moving around, see what's happening. But we're ready to expect anything.
I think that I have a clear path to victory. You just might have to work a little bit harder for it. But like I said, that's what gets me excited.
I think I can make him panic. I think that's something I could force out of him. If I don't, and it has to go 3 rounds and I have to pick him apart for 3 rounds, no problem. I don't go in there specifically I'm going to finish him in the first round. It's MMA, bro. Anything can happen. I feel like if you're very fixated on one way of winning, one way of fighting, one way of whatever, if that doesn't go according to plan, then you're screwed, So adaptability is super important. And again, I just want to fight very disciplined. I want to showcase my IQ in this fight. And ultimately, if it presents itself, I do want to showcase my finishing ability. I want to break him in this fight. That's the goal.
The finals of this BTC $10,000 Bantamweight tournament, I mean, if you pitch this script to a movie director or a Hollywood studio, they just throw it away because it's just too predictable. But that's what we're getting. We're getting, a brother defending the honor of his brother, and the winner of this tournament definitely has set a rocket to their back for a real contender. You couldn't write a better script than what we're getting here in the finals of this $10,000 BTC Bantamweight tournament, and it's just going to be a sensational fight.